Hi everyone. So I am currently surrounded by pieces of a new elevated bed that I'm adding to my rooftop deck garden. In fact, I have two beds. I already put one together and then I'm going to put this one together with you and we'll put it outside. But these are brand new from Epic Gardening and they very kindly sent these to me for free, which I am grateful for because elevated beds are by far the most expensive, like one-time purchase for my garden. Typically they range somewhere between like 200 to 300, more than that, 350. I'll go into a comparison of the current beds I have, cost, what they're made of, all of that sizing in a little bit. But I am grateful because again, the infrastructure is really more expensive than like the plants are, especially starting from seed. I would say though, at least with the elevated beds, I have them for many years. I've probably spent more money total over the years on like plants and soil, but as far as a one-time purchase, it's very nice to have two elevated beds to add to my garden for free. So if you don't know, I did start as part of their ambassador program last month, and I was also in an Epic Gardening video on what to grow in May, which was surreal to see my face on one of their videos when, 5+ years ago, they were one of the channels I first started following to learn how to garden. So the fact that they even know who I am is incredible. And also look out for their What to Grow in June video because you might see my face there as well. So they sent me out two of their new elevated beds to try. I think they've had raised beds for a while with like the open bottom that sits on ground, but elevated beds, typically if that's what you're looking for on a garden website, has the bottom. Now they still do call them raised beds, so just double check if you are buying any raised beds that they have a bottom on them because that was a mistake I almost made the very first time I started buying beds for my container garden. So let me tell you a little bit about this raised bed. We'll put it together and then I'll take you outside. I'll show you where it's gonna go. I'll show you the other raised beds that I have. So everything else that's a raised bed I did purchase with my own money, and cost-wise, they do seem to be very similar, but I'll go into comparison of what I have, where it's from, and all that once we get outside. But first, let me talk a little bit about these raised beds. Let's first go into the details of this planter. So again, I have the small cedar elevated planter, and after putting the first one together, I don't think I would have room for the large. So I think small is probably the way to go for me. It's 25.5 inches by 47 inches by 31 inches. So 47 inches in length, it's 25.5 in depth, and then it's 31 inches high off of the ground. This is $349.99 or $350, which is the same price as my largest raised bed from Grownomics. So the size I think is comparable. The other, you'll see when you get out there, the other beds I have are a little bit narrower, but again, most of the beds I have, except maybe the shortest Grownomics, are between the 200, oh, sorry, the wind just blew my doors open and I just got scared by that. Let me close them one second. So this is cedar wood, which I'm pretty sure, well, I know my Grownomics beds are made of cedar. I'm pretty sure the beds I have out back are all made of cedar because cedar, as it says here, contains natural oils and tannins that protect it from weathering, rotting, decay, and termite damage. Now I have seen wasps eating away at my bed, and that's something I'm interested to see is, I think most of my raised beds I've had one in 2019, all the rest I think I got in 2020. So I'm interested to see how long they last. I hope it's a very long time because, well, I guess the thought of transferring the dirt out isn't too bad into another bed, but I'd rather just keep them forever. Now, something I thought, so in the FAQ here, is that I thought if I had stained my elevated beds when I first got them, it would make them last longer. But it says here, finish is optional and will allow for natural cedar colors to shine and be preserved. If left unfinished, cedar will become a silvery gray tone from exposure to UV light and the elements. The color won't change the longevity of the beds. It's simply a preference, which I'm happy to hear because if I had gone back in time, and let's just say I immediately got all of my raised beds right now, I would stain them and I would probably do like maybe a darker brown. But because I already have my 4 Grownomics beds out front that I just left unstained, unfinished, those have weathered to that gray. So I'm gonna let these do the same because this is just how my brain works. But If all of my raised beds were different colors, I think it would be like too distracting and I wouldn't like it. So I do want all of my raised beds to be the same color. So I plan to leave these just as is and let them weather. And that usually takes like a year and then they're gonna match the rest of the raised beds out there. But the other ones I have all did start this color. Next FAQ on here is where should I install my planter or raised bed? The elevated planters can be installed anywhere from balconies, patios, paved and unpaved parts of your yard. On soil, they will tend to sink in, so placing the bed on some pavers is recommended for both stability and longevity. 2 points on that. Obviously, these are going on my rooftop deck. Please, please, please know your deck capacity before you put something this large on a deck or a balcony or even a patio. Like if it's just a deck that's a few feet off the ground, you don't want to collapse your deck. You don't want to destroy the structure of your home. So I do have a video on deck capacity. It's from Bethany in 2021 when she wasn't very comfortable talking to a camera, but she got the information out. So be sure to understand your deck capacity because these beds themselves aren't heavy. Like the ones in the back I picked up myself and carried out. These are a little bit longer, so just because of the length, I do need help moving it around, but I can still like adjust it as needed. But once you add soil and that soil gets wet, these do get very heavy. So all of my raised beds right now, I can't move. In fact, I think if I even had my husband do it, it would still be very, very heavy. I don't even know if two of us could do it together. So please, please know your deck capacity before you put anything this large. If you're doing like pots and grow bags, you're probably fine. But the larger infrastructure, just please check that before you put these out there. The second point is as far as what to put them on. Now, another thing that I wish I'd done in the past was put wheels on the bottom of the legs of these so that, again, once they're heavy, I can still wheel them around. I have wheels coming. They're not here yet. They were supposed to be here yesterday, but they're not. So I just ordered some casters with wheels off of Amazon. I am going to put these together still and put them out there because, again, they're so lightweight that I can easily tip them on their side, put the wheels on, tip them back up. So that's going to be my plan. So I'm not going to fill anything up until I do that. I'm also not going to fill anything up until I'm 100% sure they are in the place where I want them to be. So that is what I'm going to do differently with these. And I'm very excited. I hope it works out because I would love to be able to have these on wheels to move around the deck, just in case, even if it's just moving away from the wall for a few inches because I need to get behind to fix the drip or something like that. So that is my plan. And once I do get the wheels in the mail, I will obviously show you how I put those on. Other than that, what else is in here? How do I fill my new planter bed? To make filling your bed as simple as possible, we've calculated the soil volumes for this model already. So it says here for the model I have, which is the Cedarline Small Elevated Planter, 15-inch soil depth. So that is deeper than I think all of the beds that I currently have. 15-inch soil depth if you're doing that option, 8.1 cubic feet, 0.3 cubic yards, 242 quarts. If you're doing the 11.5 soil depth, get more into this in a second, 6.2 cubic feet, 20.23 cubic yards, 186 quarts. 8-inch soil depth, 4.3 cubic feet, 0.16 cubic yards, 129 quarts. What is the estimated time it will take to assemble, and can I do it myself? All of our beds are designed to be assembled solo, which I did with the first one. However, for lifting and positioning, suggest having an additional person, which I did. Optional, a compostable burlap liner, right there, is included in the box, which can be laid on top of the floorboard before filling with soil. That can reduce the soil spill at the initial filling. So no, my beds in the back did not come with a liner. All my Gronomics beds did. It's not there anymore. It is broken down. So whether you need a liner or not, from my experience, no. I mean, once the soil gets in there and becomes more compacted, it's not like it's spilling out the drainage holes or the cracks between the boards. But maybe when you're initially filling it with dry soil, I think it does help to have some sort of liner to keep that soil that is more light and fluffy before it sits there and has all the plants growing in it from falling through. So what else was in here in terms of details? I think that's it. I'm gonna start putting it together and then I'll show you, because I think it'll make more sense, how you can change the soil depth. And you don't need tools. There is an optional feature, which I am doing, that you will need a screwdriver for, but other than that, it's all just assembled by hand with pieces interlocking together, which is the same with how my Gronomics was. I set those up by myself. The Charming Bench ones out back, those came assembled, and I loved that, although it was more difficult to get up here. So that's one thing. With all of this, getting it up 2 flights of stairs to the 3rd story here, I had to take it out of the box because the box was too heavy, and I had to carry up, maybe it was 3 different piles, and I'm used to carrying things up here for my garden. So just note that unless you're much stronger than me, which maybe you are, you probably will have to take it all out of the box first. But now let's go ahead and put the bed together, and then we will get it outside. Now it does actually recommend using gloves to avoid splinters, and I am prone to getting splinters, so definitely putting my gloves on. And let me organize the pieces by type, because that's how my brain works best, and then we'll put it all together. All right, first things first, you take 2 of the legs and you put in one of, and this is where I want to point out how you change the depth. So there are 4 pieces that look similar to this, 2 for the shorter end, 2 for the longer end, that have this little lip on the bottom. This is where the lower part, the floor, is going to rest. So if you want to do the full depth, which is what I'm going to do because I might grow perennials in these, and they will need more room than my annuals would. So if I was doing just annuals and I wanted to have less weight, then I would put this higher in the bed. So the other side, so let's say I put this in first, then to fill up the other sides, you slide these on top. If I wanted to make it less depth, I would slide this in first and then kind of put this wherever I wanted. So I will show you that more when we get to it, but first you want to put in a bottom piece between those 2 legs. And I think starting with the shorter ends is easier than going with the longer ends. Now this is probably the most frustrating part for me putting these together because, and it was the same thing with Gronomics, they have to be like perfectly even for these to slide in. Like if one gets slightly crooked, it's hard to push these all the way down. So that for me is always the most frustrating thing, but not anything that's abnormal for these raised beds. I also want to say, you could probably build these yourselves a lot cheaper than buying a kit. That is not where I'm at skill-wise, so I will still be getting these kits. But maybe one day, maybe if I was building raised beds somewhere where it wasn't on like a 3rd story deck, then I would be more willing to just buy wood from the store and make them custom. But anyway, let's see how easy or difficult it'll be to slide this in. All right, so I'm in a good place because they're kind of going in evenly. There we go. So yeah, that is honestly the hardest part, is just making sure everything's even. But I have one side here. You want to make sure the notch for these is on the same side to put the longer boards in. But now I'm going to do the other shorter end. So I need the other 2 legs. And then adding in the other one. Again, you want this to be on the bottom because that's where the floorboard is going to sit, unless you want to make it a shallower raised bed. All right, shorter sides are in, so now I need a longer piece to start connecting this together. And you want to get all 4 of these together before you start adding the height of the walls to the bed. So I know I need to move you over this way. And again, just making sure before you start sliding that all of the boards are facing the correct way so that you don't have to take it out and start again. Okay, that side is easier. All right, so the frame of the bed is in place, and now we start building up the walls. I'm going to start, I don't think it really matters where you start. I'm probably going to start on the edges. So it comes with, again, you'll know these are the boards for the sides because they have that little notch in them. And then there is like a little groove, and that matches the groove on here. So the groove goes on the top. Okay, so like I said, that is the most frustrating part, just because I feel like if you get even the slightest bit off on one end, then it gets stuck. So what I found works the best is placing your hands on either side of these and going down very slowly so that hopefully you stay even the whole time. So those are the sides that I'm going to put in the bottom, and I think this will be the easiest to see how you change the depth in these beds. Now, because I put the wood with the lip in first, that means when I slide in the floorboard pieces, it's going to stop there. Had I put it, let's say, up here, that would have been the 11-inch depth, I think, and then if I put it here, that would have been the 8-inch depth. But like I said, with perennials, I think I'm going to want as much space as I can get. Again, keeping in mind, that is going to add to the overall weight. So let's put the floor in, and then we will get the top added on. These boards just all lay in the bottom. Don't worry too much about spacing, just set them down. All right, bottom is in. Now I want to put around the top pieces of board that have like a little shelf on them. You can tell these are the top because of this little shelf, and something that they mentioned, which I didn't really think of, and now looking at the difference between the raised beds I have makes sense, but my Charming Bench raised beds don't have this. Oh, sorry, my Gronomics beds don't have this. My Charming Bench raised beds do. I do think the lip is nice, especially for gardening tools, because sometimes either I lay them on the floor of the deck and almost step on them, or I leave them in a garden bed in the soil and forget about it. So this part, you want to make sure that the lips themselves kind of come together on the corner. And now the last piece, well, the last required piece, this corner on, oh, let's put it on the right way. And on the first raised bed, this is also where I had to like pick things up and make sure everything fit together. So we'll see how easy this is. All right, I think we are good. Now there are 2 additional pieces you can add for extra sturdiness, but let me just kind of show you how sturdy it is right now without it. So it does move a bit. Again, once these are in place, you shouldn't be moving them or they'll be too heavy to move anyway with the soil, but there is some movement back and forth. So let me show you what it comes with as optional pieces. It's basically these 2 pieces of wood with pre-drilled holes and then some screws. So at this point, I never had to use a tool, but if you want to add these in, which I would recommend if you're doing the full depth, add them in. I'll show you where to put them just for a little bit extra stability. I did notice though that these are, so they'll go on the long sides, but like these are this depth, which is the depth for the 15 inches. So if you put that board with the lip on the bottom, so you can't put these in, or maybe you could put them, actually, I guess you could put them like at an angle if you did a different depth. So let me show you what this looks like and explain kind of what I mean by that. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe you should look at the instructions and see. So install the recommended alignment brace Find the center of each of the long side panel sections. Place a flat face with through holes on the inside face of the panel so the brace is running vertically and the top edge of the brace rests just under the top sill. Using the provided screws to attach the brace to the side of the panel boards. Tighten and screw with the pre-drilled holes until the screw head is flush with the surface. So it doesn't actually say what to do for the different depths, so I will show you my non-professional, non-construction builder person idea of what you could do. So let me show you what I mean about the braces and the different depths in here. So right now, again, I'm at the deepest you can make the bed, the 15 point whatever it was inches. And this brace that comes with it would just sit perfectly in there with the height wise. So if you would raise the bed floor any shorter, these wouldn't fit. Now maybe you can do something like that, but keep in mind that I am not a professional builder in any way, shape, or form. But that is just my thoughts on if you did want to add the brace. Maybe you don't need them as much for the smaller depths, but I would say still, like, if you have it, might as well put it in. So I'm going to screw this in, and something else I did notice is that I think I only have 8 screws, not 10, and there are 5 holes. And I checked the one out front I already put together yesterday, and that did come with 10 screws. So I'm going to see if I have any other screws. I should, hopefully. But just one thing to note, and I will do a double check on the ground, just so it's not my fault and they're sitting on the floor somewhere. But just screw these in with a Phillips head screwdriver. I know this is probably very exciting for everyone to be watching me put a screw into wood. All right, the supports are in place. So I now have a bed. I don't know how long that took me to put together, but it's not that complicated of a process. Again, I'd say the most frustrating is just getting those in evenly all the way down the sides. But that's it. I did want to, well, one thing. So I built this inside. I'll show you how I get it outside. If I didn't have double doors, I would have to build it outside because of the width of the bed. It wouldn't fit. But because it's a deck and there's cracks, I can just picture myself, I mean, not as much with this because there's not a ton of screws, but I can just picture myself dropping a screw and it falling in between the boards and never seeing it again. Also, it is warm outside, which is nice, but not a temperature I want to put a bed together in. So that's why I'm doing it inside. Also, let me look up the Charming bench beds because I'm wondering, since those came together, like pre-assembled, if there was a price difference. Okay, so I'm on the Charming bench website and I don't remember them being this expensive, but the extra large, which is what I have, the original price that it has here, like scratched out. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. It says $490, and I have 3 of those, and I'm pretty sure I did not pay over $400 for those, or maybe I got those. I think there might have been a sale. I have a video. I'll have to double check and see what the price was, but the sale price listed is $339, which is more in line with what I'm used to than the $490. The dimension difference here. So again, I have the extra wide, which this is 49 inches long, 20 wide and 17 high because it is shorter. The planting depth, I believe, is 10.75 inches. So 49, 20, 17 compared to this one is 47, so only 2 inches shorter. I already forgot the second number. 49, 20, this is 25, so it is larger that way, and then 17 versus 31. So you do get more planting space in this, and it doesn't come pre-made though. So this one was $350. The other one on sale for Charming bench was $339 on sale. I cannot believe that that is ever $490 normal pricing, but maybe it is. I did not pay that much for it though. So in terms of price, this seems to be right in line with at least all of the raised beds that I have, or all the elevated beds that I have. Again, you can probably build your own for cheaper, but that is not my skill set. And in terms of putting it together, very similar to, almost identical to the Grownomics beds that I have. Again, the cedar planters all came pre-made, which was, again, nice. And they luckily were light enough to carry upstairs, but that would have been a problem if they were too heavy, whereas this was way too heavy to carry upstairs. So let me show you how I get this outside. And I'm pretty sure I will need my husband for this one again. And I have to rearrange things on the deck to get it to the spot where I want it. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go out first. I'm gonna show you one that's already out there, show you my thoughts on where I thought I was gonna put this, and then where I'm probably gonna put it. This is the bed I already put together, and I think this is a great spot for it. This area in particular, as you can see, gets shaded by this wall. So any pots on the ground, if the plant was low to the pot, would not actually get full sun. But here, with this raised off so high, all the plants will get full sun. I was nervous about the seating room, but this chair, even backed up against there, definitely enough room. It is falling apart. I might need a new one, but hasn't fallen apart yet. So my original thought was then to put the other one there to kind of flank each side of the seating area. But the flower cart I could potentially move, but I kind of like it over there. And there's so much stuff on this end anyway that now my thought, at least starting off, and this is why I'm not planting it up right away, is this corner here. So this corner is kind of empty. There's only one bed along this longer wall. So I think it would fit better here. So that's where it's gonna go for now. But again, I'm gonna wait a little bit before planting it up and putting soil in it in case I wanna move it. And I still need to wait for the wheels. All these are my Grownomics beds. So these are at least 4 to 5 years old. You can see the color difference. That is the color they started. And, oh, like I said, this one doesn't have that sill around it, so I often lay my phone or my tools either on that corner or in the middle of a bed, and then I lose them or forget about them. So I do think I will like having that sill around. But these are all of my Grownomics beds. Here's the bed we just moved out, and I do think I feel good about it in this spot here. So if I do a sweep now, this is where everything is at in the garden. And then over here is still gonna be like my garbage can storage area, which I think works well. I think I'd like that better than both raised beds here. But like I said, I'm not filling it with dirt yet. I will take you along with me when I do that, but I want to just sit with it for a little bit. I mean, you still have to plant up everything out here. So these will probably be the last things that I plant in the garden. It was kind of funny because when I posted about these on Instagram and I got them, someone mentioned, oh, now you can get more plants. And I was like, oh no, I already have more plants than I had beds for. So now I'm just going to put plants I already had into these because I always start more than I have room for. Some I assume will die, but then the rest I just give away. But now I have spots for more of the plants that I started. So yeah, like I said, they'll stay here for a little bit. I will show you what I end up planting in them. I don't know yet for sure. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.